Article that just came out in the Root today, September 12th, 2017. Black public figures are being silenced for calling out white supremacy. Well, isn't that what's happening even on social media? Same thing happening. Blackness is a box. Its sides are closed enough that if you spread your arms out far enough, you can touch them with both hands. While its ceiling may be tall, if you fly high enough or long enough, you will eventually crash into it. It is an inescapable boundary that every Black person in America is aware they can't escape. It will squeeze you until you can't breathe. It will choke you to death. Nowhere in this box more noticeable than in corporate America, where one's Blackness is simultaneously commodified and shackled. In the world of high stakes, multi-million dollar capitalism, you are allowed to be Black, but not too Black. You can be proof of an corporation diversity as long as you don't wear your hair a certain way. And we know how they have come down, especially on Black women, for the hairstyles that they wear. You can offer a different cultural outlook as long as it's sufficiently acceptable to whites. You can bring a younger urban audience to a network as long as you don't mention white supremacy. Never mention white supremacy. Never remind anyone of the history of American whiteness. Just to be safe, never say white. Imagine becoming a Black writer, reporter, or public figure and having a muzzle placed over your mouth. That's what is happening to many people with alarming frequency. It has become a trend. They are allowed to be Black with a caveat. Don't upset the fragile, safe space of whiteness. Stay inside the box. I damn near cried a few minutes ago. On Tuesday morning, I read a story on ESPN, Jemele Hill, calling Donald Trump a white supremacist on her Twitter account. Monday, becoming the subject of controversy when she tweeted this: Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. And she wrote this on September 11th, 2017 on Twitter. ESPN has a strict company policy about its reporters sharing their personal opinions, even on their own Twitter account. The company issued a memo that basically said its reporters are allowed to share political opinions only when the topics are related to a current issue impacting sports. Well, guess what? Racism is impacting sports. What are you doing to Colin Kaepernick? This condition may vary for content appearing on platforms with broader editorial missions, such as The Undefeated, 538, and ESPNW. Other exceptions must be approved in advance by senior editorial management. And let me guess, the management is probably all white. In response to Jemele Hill's tweet, ESPN issued this tweet. The comments on Twitter from Jemele Hill regarding the president do not represent the position of ESPN. Well, I don't think she was implying that it did. We have addressed this with Jemele, and she recognizes her actions were inappropriate. So speaking your mind is inappropriate? Oh, my bad, she's a Black female. And, well, I stopped watching SportsCenter a few years ago, not for any radical reasons. I didn't like that it didn't show sports anymore. Instead of headlights, highlights, and stats. It does feature pieces about Make-A-Wish kids and bland interviews with people who have nothing to say. Then they rebranded the 6 p.m. Sports Center to SC6 and hired Hill and Michael Smith to bring some flavor to the broadcast. And we all know what flavor means: blackness. The show basically became a young, sports-based urban talk show. ESPN executives hired Jemele Hill because she was Black. They traded on her Blackness. They used her Blackness to make money, to boot ratings, and to make the network cool again, until she stepped out of the box. The same thing is going on everywhere. Political Magazine recently warned its writers about offering their opinions, according to the Washington Post. Then this happened. Staffers at Friday's meeting asked whether it was okay to tweet their opinions about topics such as physical attacks on journalists and white supremacy, i.e., matters that receive and deserve widespread condemnation. The editor's message was very hesitant. Try to stay away from those things because some of them are partisan, said a source in attendance. So, in other words, don't upset white fragility. That's what this is all adding up to. But let's go on. Newspapers don't hire anyone because of his or her subject-verb agreement. They hire writers because of how they translate stories and facts into words. When they hire Black writers, they know and usually want the facts and stories filtered through the lens of a Black reporter. Not only is this important, but it is necessary if the aim is representing different viewpoints. I'm Black. If condemning white supremacy is partisan issue, you don't deserve my words. So in other words, Soraya and McDonald is pretty much telling them, if you don't accept my Black opinion, then you don't really deserve any writing piece from me. And she's got a point. But they never want the Black opinion. That is just something that's been happening all throughout history in America. Every time you have a voice that speaks against all of the injustice, the one thing they want to do is shut you down. That don't just happen on TV. That happens all over social media too. Monroe Bergdorf, who wrote a Facebook post saying, honestly, I don't have the energy to talk about the racial violence of white people anymore. Yes, all white people. These public figures weren't reprimanded or fired because of what they said. It was because they said it. Even worse, the companies that hire them employ them specifically to use their Blackness as currency, as a prop. The corporations were happy to rake in the dollars based on their Blackness until their Blackness crossed the line. To make it clear, Jemele Hill's tweet didn't offend a single person. L'Oreal won't sell fewer tubes of lipstick because of what Bergdorf said. There isn't a platform in media where you can run into someone calling Donald Trump a white supremacist. These people didn't make themselves liabilities. They were just too Black. It is the exact same thing that happened to Colin Kaepernick. I can't imagine speaking out against inequality and racism and having my boss say, nah, Mike, recognize he shouldn't have said that. He gave him a stern talking to. Yeah, whatever. Isn't the ability to make your Black skin property? Shush until it's spoken to reminiscent of 200 years ago? Isn't the definition of white supremacy, isn't that like sending them back to the tiny boxes to huddle in the corner until they learn their boundaries? And this is Michael Harriot that wrote this piece. I like his stories. He really puts out a lot of interesting work. Tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. I really believe this to be true, and this happens everywhere to the Black community, whether you're a public figure or someone just going on a job every day. They don't want your opinion about white supremacy. Even the ones that claim they're not racist don't want to hear it either, which tells me they are racist. So anything that happens to us, we're supposed to just zip our mouth up and keep it moving. But anything that happens to them, they're crying all over the media, crying all over the papers, crying all over the magazines, and that's okay. That's okay. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. And please, if you also can be kind enough to make a donation to my hurricane fund for the people in Florida, for all of the damage they went through during Hurricane Irma. Peace, family.